Apparently MrBeast spends $10,000 per thumbnail before even thinking about making a video. But I'm about to show you how to make just as premium thumbnails that originally you'd have to pay hundreds of dollars for, but you get them completely for free. And the best part, it can be done in less than 60 seconds. So by the end of this video, you'll know how to make endless mockups and even thumbnails worthy of being the final product. You no longer have to spend money on subscriptions just to speed up your production. In order to understand the best tool, you really need to be caught up on which companies are making the best types of AI models for content creation specifically. Most people love using ChatGPT, but honestly, in my opinion, it's really quite bad. You want to, in this case, actually be using Google's Gemini. And the reason for this is because, simply put, Google owns YouTube, so they access their own data and understand how to best make thumbnails for you. I just want to be real with you. I know that AI is taking people's jobs, and I feel it too. But the reality is, AI is great for production, not strategy. As we're going to talk about later in this video, there's actually a bit of a magic touch that you have to include in order to make this work. And it doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or even Anthropic's Claude. None of them are going to hand you a perfect thumbnail straight off the bat. But now that you know which tool we're going to be using today, let me actually show you how it works. Okay, so on my screen here, you can actually see an example of a mock-up video I was making for another video for my channel. And this mock-up video was called 24 Hours Inside Apple's Headquarters. And you can see here, all I had to do is just say, make a YouTube thumbnail of Tim Cook's face on the left, and then the rest of the image is Apple's headquarters. Now, as I mentioned before, the immediate result is actually pretty bad. But the second I actually start prompting it, we're starting to level up the quality quite quickly. For whatever reason, it decided to get rid of Tim Cook here. So then I brought him back. And now you can see the quality of the thumbnail is seriously getting better. The only problem I had so far was that the text just didn't really feel Apple-like. So as you can see, if we go down the chain here, I get to the point where I'm using the actual Apple font and I've included the icon down the bottom right. Now, honestly, straight off the bat, this is a pretty good thumbnail. But if you look really closely, you might see a little bit of a problem. If we actually just click in on this thumbnail, you might be able to notice that Tim Cook is starting to look quite low quality and almost pixelated. And this is because AI works in a way where it starts to get worse over time the more you talk to it in one conversation. That's why it's really important that after you've had a couple questions or prompts in one chat to start a new one. But this is the cool part. I'm actually going to show you the 3 different mockups I came up with in a matter of literally 60 seconds for this video. Okay, so first we have this one here, which actually looks pretty damn good. And then kind of a different version, getting more Apple-like with the lighter colors. And then I ended up landing on this one, which in my opinion, it's actually starting to feel quite professional. Super simple, and your eyes are really drawn to what the video is about. Now, this part isn't sponsored whatsoever, but I actually also use a website called Higgsfield, and you've probably seen them all over social media, but basically they actually are pretty useful when it comes to generating images and for someone like me who also generates video. Now, they have a bunch of different tools on their website, and I think when I signed up, they were running a special sale where I could basically access Google's image model and I had unlimited tokens if I just bought the yearly subscription. So there's special ways that you can go about doing this. You don't just have to use the Gemini website or the app, but now that you know how to use Gemini to create thumbnails, how do you actually make a good output? The reality is, when it comes to using AI to speed up your life and make everything easier, the power is in the prompt. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. So as you can see here, I actually have a dedicated folder just for some skills or documents that I've made to kind of just plug and play into AI so that it knows exactly what I mean when it comes to scripting, thumbnails, titles, whatever it may be. And I highly encourage you that if you're not already collecting data on what you know and what you believe about your marketing or your sales or whatever it may be that you're trying to achieve, then it's going to be a whole lot harder to use AI in the future to speed up your workflow. As you can see here, I've got a dedicated thumbnail skill that, as I mentioned, I can just plug and play, and it makes my life so much easier. The other option that you can do, which I haven't personally done yet, is you can make a dedicated folder on your computer just with a bunch of photos or screenshots of you doing different expressions for your YouTube videos. That way you can just keep on reusing them when you make designs down the line. The cool part with Gemini 2 is you can actually take your face and your likeness and put it onto someone else, which is pretty incredible. So the secret isn't actually the tool itself, it is the way that you use it. So now I'm actually going to show you my real monthly workflow so that you can just steal it. Step one is you need to study YouTube. The reality is the top creators and business owners on this platform, they have marketing teams who are basically constantly looking for the best performing content. And if you're not doing that, then you're basically falling behind. I know it sucks to hear, but I basically have to spend days every single month studying multiple niches. And this is an example right here, right? I had a client, they travel around the world and they do it in their vehicle. And so I went in and I studied the kind of digital nomad niche, and I also studied van life and all of that stuff. So you could see I found a pretty well working format, which is actually ironically super kind of similar to the data I used to kind of validate this idea here of tours of vehicles or places performing really well. People love that stuff. Now, step two is building your training folder. So most of you won't have all of this stuff written down, and that's okay. All you need to do is you just need to get up a chat with AI and just start walking through everything that you know about every single workflow and process. I know this can be a bit of a pain, but once you get it down digitally, it makes your life so much easier. In fact, you can actually ask it to give you a base amount of information anyway. It's going to be pretty general and not great in my opinion, but you might as well start somewhere. If you have any pictures of yourself doing expressions, this is where you can pull them up in this step as well. But now we've gotten to the mock-ups phase. Now I'm showing you a folder here of a real client where we come up with, again, we've taken validated titles and thumbnails, and I've actually got basic designs that I've come up with. This is exactly where Google Gemini can come in. If I wanted to, I could probably paste my client's likeness or his image or a screenshot of him in a video. I could put it into Gemini and say, can you make this come to life? Which I honestly mainly use Gemini for mock-ups. I don't use it for the final product. However, that kind of brings us to the last step, which is the final product. Once you have these incredible mock-ups, which again, you can use Gemini to create, or you can even use Gemini to get closer to a final product, you will have your actual final thumbnails. As you can see here, similar to the mock-up, this is kind of the end result. And I've gone into Photoshop. I personally still pay for these design apps. I know maybe at some point in the future they might not be used, but I personally still think they're a good way of setting yourself apart from other people. There's one thing to keep in mind with all of this, and it is that with AI becoming more accessible, this does mean people's thumbnails are going to be easier to make, and we're going to start seeing very similar stuff. So you do have to try and find ways to stand out on the platform. For now, I actually don't think AI thumbnails are that big of a problem. I've noticed some creators don't look real in their thumbnails, so it slightly is, but I'm still noticing high quality, real human-made thumbnails are super duper valuable. And please do not write them off just because I teach you how to make high quality thumbnails in 60 seconds using Google Gemini. Again, if we come back here, basically the final result I had for a previous video was Google Gemini plus some Photoshop skills. And honestly, this is amazing, amazing quality. Like, I would post this for a video. With that said, I hope this video has come in handy. If you care about removing the guesswork and just following the systems and the stats and the evidence for what works online right now, specifically for YouTube and for business owners trying to grow their brand, then consider following along the journey by hitting the subscribe button. And if you're looking to grow your channel right now, check out the link in description.